far more severely. And we'll talk with the research assistant from the University of Cape Town around this. Stages, pages, screens, and more is also coming up within this hour of the show. On the other side of 2 o'clock in our legal guide today, we're still celebrating and honoring Women's Month, and we're looking at the progress and challenges in South Africa's judiciary. That conversation is coming up on the other side of 2 o'clock, and we'll also touch on the recent unemployment statistics that were also released this week. There was so much going on this week, but of course the big news of the day, and I think the big news for the next couple of weeks is, on the back of that EFF presser that just confirmed the departure of the fighters' Deputy President Floyd Shivambu. So we're asking the fighters this afternoon. We know a lot of you listen to the station. We know a lot of you listen to the show, and we're wondering, how do you feel? That is the question. How do you feel about your beloved DP that you've so endearingly termed the brains of your organization departing and stepping down to join another political party? 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come right back.
Paying your TV license means that you can tune in to the Expresso Morning Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Mondays to Fridays right here on S3. Enjoy our entertainment, recipes, and important current affairs and updates. All of this for less than 74 cents a day or 265 Rand for an entire year. For super fast, secure, and convenient payment from any device, go onto tvlrc.co.za and click on the Fast Pay button for payment in under 3 minutes. Make a difference with Expresso and TV licenses and pay yours.
The Rockets know how magical 3 points is in football. They want just that in their own backyard this weekend. But Gunners want to deny them any joy as they are in dire need of victory to escape from the uncomfortable territory. Mpumalanga battles it out with Eastern Cape. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Tears Galaxy Queens FC versus City Lads Ladies FC, the Sunday 18 August at 3 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, let's get into our first topic of conversation, and we're catching up with the research assistant at the University of Cape Town's African Climate and Development Initiative. Palisa Base joins us now, and we're speaking on the severe impact of flooding of women in Khayelitsha, Cape Town, and we're going to be focusing on a specific informal settlement, Msindweni informal settlement, where floods have disproportionately affected women and disrupting their economic activities as well as endangering their health. And these words are borrowed from the research piece that is presented by Palisa and her team. Good afternoon to you. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Bridget. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time. We appreciate it. Let's firstly, I guess, get an understanding as to what motivated you to focus on this intersectional impact of flooding, but specifically on women in informal settlements.
Yes, so great question. It's no doubt that a lot of research surrounding climate change and particularly its impact related to flood risks and drought is very pertinent right now. And actually this research emerged out of my honors thesis that I did through EGS at the University of Cape Town. And I'm furthering this work right now at ACDI, and it was supervised by who's now the director of the ACDI, Gina Zivrogo. And we're looking at this work particularly now through sanitary sanitation and looking at the intersection, exploring this intersection between gender and climate. So, I mean, it's not, I myself am a Black woman from Cape Town who grew up in the townships of Cape Town, and having seen obviously how people are impacted by flooding and the severe floods that actually do occur in informal settlements, I had an interest more than anything into wanting to explore what this impact looks like, and to look beyond, and for people to understand better what are the impacts of flood risks in people staying in informal settlement, but also to take a further lens and to look at the multi and diverse way in which these impacts are multi-layered, and to consider this impact be particularly on women and children residing in informal settlements. And also within climate research, I realized that there's also a very significant gap looking at this work and looking at these intersections of gender and the gendered impacts and the gendered experiences of women who stay in informal settlements, that even though flood risks and flood are not necessarily discriminating into who they affect, that they affect everyone who stays in these settlements. But I realized from my study that a lot of the other impacts are very much gendered and multi-layered. So that was essentially the aim of what I was trying to explore within my research.
And let's talk about those multi-layered impacts. So you identified, the economic, health, and social impacts of flooding on women. And what of those areas do you think requires the most immediate interventions?
Well, Bridget, I think all of these impacts are very much important and they all need intervention. And I think what all these impacts are deeply embedded in is the socioeconomic disparities that do exist for the people who reside in these areas. And this is very much deepened by economic constraints. Particularly, I would say it would be the economic and health impacts that need to be addressed very much. And I think this goes back to addressing unemployment, in enhancing economic opportunities for people who are residing in informal settlements, and also to look at the health impact of it, because I think a lot of it, what I realized from my study is that a lot of the health impacts are very much related to sanitation, because a lot of the facilities within communities and within informal settlements are public and also very much inadequate infrastructure. They're not well taken care of, they're not well maintained. And you realize that in a time of flood risk, these often get flooded as well. So it becomes very difficult for women to come in to use these facilities. And you also need to understand that there's the challenge of, dealing with stuff like wash and like menstrual hygiene that women need to contend with. So then it becomes very difficult to, deal with all of these issues when you do not have proper infrastructure, you do not have any safe sanitation. You find that these sanitation facilities are distant from their homes. They're also at risk to sexual harassment and violence. And all of these are findings that were very intricate from my study. So I think it's very important, if we need to address the economic disparity and offer these people more economic, opportunities, because also a lot of them, the economic and livelihood impact was very much based on people that are owning businesses within these homes, that their home serve as a function of both a living and a workspace. So then if your home is flooded, that initially also means that your business is also closed, your suffer financial loss. And a lot of the women who stay in these areas do not necessarily have access to financial services such as bank loans or savings accounts that they can actually use to repay their spoiled stock. So an embedded impact, and it starts there. It starts with creating opportunity. It starts with investing in resilient infrastructure, because the reality is that flooding is continuing and climate change is here and flood risks are continuing. We see every winter, every year in Cape Town, this is a proliferating thing that is happening. So, and also the reality of the fact that these people are not necessarily going to now and they don't have the privilege of having to find different places to stay. So then we need to invest, such as improved drainage systems, better housing for these people, or even investing in other ways of actually working within these settlements, such things like reblocking, and these are all things that the women were mentioning during my study, that it's not necessarily that we're saying that we want to be given new stuff entirely, we just need help. And I must mention from my research, and if you were to look at the aims and objective of it, yes, it was to also uncover the multi-layeredness of flood risks, but also it was very important for me to highlight the coping strategies that these women adopt, that in as much as, yes, they contend with these realities and these struggles every day, but they're also finding ways to cope, and that also the fact that they're not victims, they have the agency and there is a willingness there. to try and do something, but they just need a little bit of a push. They need a push of institutional support, which is what really lacks and what really compounds these impacts on them.
Yeah, and I think we'll definitely get into that a little bit deeper by way of the coping strategies, and of course what interventions can be done at what levels. But I also want to hone in on the community that made up part of your focus group, and that was a woman living in Msindweni, which is an informal community in Cape Town. And you say that a lot of the women from this informal community really partook in informal trading and ran small businesses from their homes. And so when the floods happen, obviously all of that gets derailed and gets destabilized. What was some of the conversation and sentiment that came out from those focused discussions?
Yes, so like I mentioned, it's very tricky to navigate a flooded home. I think that's one thing I took out from it, because it's a matter of, actually one of the women said a very important phrase. She said something about, and this was actually a disabled woman, and she said, I usually have my crutches on my floor before I go to bed. The minute I wake up in the middle of the night, my house is flooded. I cannot reach for my crutches. I cannot reach for my children. And the first thing is to try and stop the flood water from coming in. But then after the fact that you also have your stock that is probably getting spoiled. So all of this happens at once. And I think also when we focus on flood risks, we tend to think about it on the physical and the temporary damage, right? But very much of a layeredness to these impacts. So I think for these women, more than anything, there is a sense of feeling as though sometimes they do not necessarily have any means to try and deal with their situation, which is why I think there's a very serious need for support to try and mitigate these issues.
Speaking of that support, you say that obviously part of your study was important for you was also highlighting the coping strategies. So what kind of interventions are currently in place? How should those be bolstered up, and what kind of multi-pronged interventions should we be looking at moving forward? And of course, they always say that community always knows the solutions that they require. So how is that informed by some of the data and information that you've extracted from your participants?
I think it's very crucial that you make that mention, that it is the informal settlement dwellers and these community members that know best what is there. So I think right now what is very much important and what needs to be considered is to develop strategies and policies that actually do make consideration of these women, right? And to, within disaster risk management policies, to now and consider to integrate a climate and gender-based and gendered consideration and a gender-centric that includes these people, that tries and address these issues, but at the same time also not be extractive. And I think that was also something that was very important for me as well. So a lot of the policies and the projects that happen to try and redress infrastructural problems, for example, such as like sanitation or water, it tends to be a project that is developed by someone else in the private sector, and then they come into communities and then they implement, right? And you find that any co-creation or co-produced knowledge and inputs from community members. So I think it's very important also to try and do consultation with community members in the initial stages of these projects also. But I'd like you to go back to your questions. Like you said, a lot of them also mentioned, improved drainage systems is a big thing, because you'd find that part of why areas get flooded is because there isn't necessarily any outlet to let the flood water go down in. So, investing in resilient infrastructure to these floods, I think is very important as well.
And let's talk a little bit also about the woman that made up your participants and the engagements that you had going into this research piece, and how that maybe could have been changed, or perhaps your perception even altered by the reality that was shared with you once you got into the process of research.
I mean, as researchers, we go in with having aims and objectives of what we're trying to get out of our study, right? But I think for me, more than anything, was one, to be very aware of my positionality as a researcher coming from an institution such as UCT, first of all, coming into a community. Because as aforementioned, we will go into communities, and this happens a lot. And I think it also creates a sense of a detachment from community members wanting to engage in such studies. Whereas you'd find that researchers and, policymakers are very extractive. We go in, we speak to people, get the information, and then it's done. And there isn't necessarily any consideration or input. So I think going in for me, I think that was one thing that I needed to be very cognizant of. But also, I had my aims and my objectives. And I think what I really wanted to get to and explore was looking at the vulnerabilities, because you need to understand a lot of the women staying in informal settlement dwellers in general have their own pre-existing vulnerabilities, right? And then I was more interested to see, in a time of flood risks, which is happening every winter, every year, how are they even becoming even more vulnerable? What is the added vulnerability? And also, how does this differ? Because in as much as, yes, I was interviewing women, part of why, and my study context and the people that I was choosing my study pool, I wanted to try and have a variety of women who have different social categories, because my work is also looking at intersectionality, and that considers looking at people, what are the struggles and the impacts from people from different ages, genders, disability or the lack thereof, right? So I went in trying to explore what is the differential vulnerability of these women, and also to understand very much so, like, what are these impacts on their health and education and livelihood, and to have input. And yes, I had my aims and objectives, but a lot of the information that came out was very surprising, and some of it's not stuff that I would have ever anticipated. For example, them mentioning the risk of dealing with sexual harassment and violence when using unsafe or distant sanitation facilities. So those were some of the stuff that I didn't really think about going in, but it was very fruitful. It enriched my study even more. And I think one thing that really stood out for me was how they mentioned there's also a gendered tension in flood response. So you'll find that when it's flooding and there's time to, respond to the flood, to try and get the flood water out, they said that even though there would be a man in the house or male people within the house, it innately becomes the responsibility of the woman to take care of that. And that adds to the social impact of it, and the added domestic burden of social reproduction and social reproductive labor that women need to perform in a time of flood risk, which is also very much an ignored impact and an ignored factor that we need to consider when looking at flood response. So it was all of these information and key findings that really added to this study being so impactful as well.
Yeah. What a comprehensive study, Palisa, and I think one that probably should find place on the desks of the various provincial governments, considering that these are environmental issues that we grapple with, every single day. And of course, having these in-depth insights from communities would go a long way towards that multifaceted, multi-pronged approach in knowing exactly where to plug in the gaps in a way that will impact these women within these vulnerable communities. Thank you so much for sharing your research work with us. That was Palisa Base, a research assistant at the University of Cape Town's African Climate and Development Initiative. It is fast approaching 1:30, and of course, no doubt we know what is the headline story for the day and perhaps for the remainder of the week, as everybody chimes in and analyzes it from various angles. Right now, we want to know the human side of it, because of course there are over 1 million registered economic freedom fighter voters, and we'd like to know how you feel about your DP, your Deputy President Floyd Shivambu, stepping down from his role and responsibilities as the second in charge of the party, and going to join the MK. Already I'm seeing from the corner of my eye messages from folks saying that they are quite literally heartbroken in this moment. 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line.
With the headlines at 1:30, I am Dino Motaung. Good afternoon. EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu says he will join the Umkhonto weSizwe party as an ordinary member with no positions promised. Meanwhile, the legal counsel for former President Jacob Zuma and the Umkhonto weSizwe party has argued that the matter before the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg is about the constitutional obligations of the SABC. Zuma and the MK party are seeking an order to have the SABC's use of the term Government of national unity declared unconstitutional and invalid. And the children and grandchildren of veteran actor Connie Chume says she might have been a superstar to many in the country and across the globe, but to them she's a mother that taught them to love and care for other people. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Listen, we are the show that likes to also just get a gauge for where you are emotionally and mentally as things happen in and around you that are out of your control but ultimately may affect you. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086-000-2032. So we thought we'd carve out some moments for the fighters to share their sentiments in this time on the back of course, the press conference that just finished. Just a little before 1 o'clock, we saw the EFF leadership taking to the podiums there at Winnie Madikizela Mandela House, confirming that the Deputy President Floyd Shivambu is going to be stepping down from that role as the second in command of the economic freedom fighters and stepping down from all of his responsibilities as a fighter, ultimately confirming that he is joining the MK party, but not opening the floor up for any speculation or engaging in his reasons behind leaving, and saying that there will be a time later on to discuss that. What is evident though is you can physically see the pain and the emotion in Julius Malema's face and demeanor, and as he says, they remain brothers in arms, brothers in life, and both saying that, recognizing that, but sometimes you have to make allowance for people to pursue their own personal endeavors and their own personal goals, and even if those do differ from you. But it doesn't mean that it does not leave a million plus fighters right now feeling some type of way. And if X is anything to go by this morning, a lot of people were already anxious, and we thought we'd just gauge how you feel as a fighter in this moment, or someone who's followed the party, even if you haven't necessarily voted for them, but you followed the party and you have some sentiments about what this moment means. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's go to WhatsApp.
Good evening, Bridget. Soviet here in King Williamstown. Bridget, I am hurt. Floyd hurt me today. It's probably gonna get worse over the next few days. Very importantly, for all EFF members to know that it is gonna get worse. It's that one moment that will define EFF. If there is one moment that will define this party, it is this moment. The EFF will probably move on and survive without Floyd, but it hurts. He was that big, he was that important. I will get through it eventually, but it hurt. That is all I can say. I don't want to hate his party, his new party. I don't want to hate his decision. I wish him all the best, but it hurts. It really did. It does, and it's only gonna get worse. So EFF members, we should just expect the worst and be strong. Soviet King Williamstown.
Good afternoon, SAFM. The leaving of Floyd is just another political stunt, and it shows us that the EFF and the MK party is creating a very strong bond, because they're going to form an alliance.
Good afternoon, SAFM. Good afternoon, Bridget. Kimalume Stop Nonsense here from Polokwane. All I can say about EFF and Floyd Shivambu is that we as South Africa are witnessing the science of politics in motion. We are witnessing chess being played in politics. So as an EFF member, I'm disappointed that our DP is leaving, but I see the bigger picture. I see the bigger picture, and Samkelo almost gave it away when he talked about the Trojan horse. All I can say is EFF is a strong organization, and it's not going anywhere. So let's just sit back, relax, and watch, and see what happens.
I feel sorry for these two young men of EFF, Floyd and Julius, but I can feel their pain, man. I can feel their pain. I feel for them, but it was inevitable. Looking at the method the leader operated for a very long time, we said 10 years is a minimum. What do you call years to achieve the minimum what we want to achieve? But the manner he operated, the approach and everything was not helping at all. So it's regrettable, but it's life, it's politics, but it's painful for these two young men. I wish both of them can get counseling because, but the problem, like I said, Malema would have won elections 2021, provincial elections, setting up the tone for 2024. The issue of the immigration policy, I told you, tone down on immigration policy. You said to remain alone. And here are now the problem now here. We feel sorry for you guys. You are African brothers, but we feel sorry for you, really.
He said that with the kind of sentiment as though you were Malume in the room scolding them together, saying tone down on that sentiment. 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. 086002032 is the number that you can call us on. Let's go to the calls quickly. Let's go to the Eastern Cape. Luvuyo?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, like, how are you in this moment?
Yo, Bridget. Yo. My jaw is on the floor, I tell you right now.
I'm
trying to pick up my jaw from the floor. But I'll be honest, I do see, I understand where Floyd is coming from, and I do see the bigger picture.
Help us understand, where do you think he's coming from?
Well, the thing is, Julius Malema's personality is too big for other guys. It's like having 2 bulls or 3 bulls in the party. I think he just needs to step or take an honorary role.
Yeah.
Now, the other guys, they can't thrive in the party because he's too, like, the thing is, he got defeated and he's running out of energy. He needs to focus on outside Africa and go spread his message there, because it's not resonating with what we're thinking, what we signed up for. I've voted for EFF since my first vote until my last vote. I voted for EFF. Provincial, okay, I did put in, what's this guy, Uyo Zumula, in my provincial.
Yes.
You see, but I mean, nationally, I've never wavered. Right?
I got
I've never
you.
liked Jacob. Like, really, kudos to Jacob Zuma. I think the man's a political wizard.
Okay. Thank you, Luvuyo. Thank you so much. Thank you. And the interesting thing is also that, remembering that when Julius got expelled from the ANC, Floyd Shivambo actually left with Julius. I know some people like to rewrite history, and like to bundle it and say that Floyd was expelled, but in fact, he left with Julius in solidarity. And so there's a brotherhood there, right? There's a brotherhood that goes beyond just the political arena. And I can understand the pain of the fighters in this moment. And a lot of times when you see fighters talking on social media, they'll often make reference to their DP as the brains behind their organization. A lot of them will say, when DP leaves, we don't know what will happen to the organization. And so I can see why a lot of you are saying you are heartbroken in this moment. Is it Bruce in Umtata? Oh, Bruce in Umtata has left us. Let's go to WhatsApp.
Good afternoon, Bridget. This is that time where I'll be saying that my people are doing what they do best. Lack of loyalty, and one thing that we are so good at is jumping from this one particular corrupt leader and jumping to the next one. This is the very same Floyd that made us believe that Jacob Zuma stole money for him to be able to build Nkandla. So, I mean, it's business as usual. It's business as usual. But up until we as Africans or as South Africans realize that, as controversial as the statement is, but the National Party regime was much better than what we have currently. We will always be jumping from one leader and to the next in a hope that now we are punishing the so-called white people. But in the meantime, the country is burning.
All right. I mean, okay, the last part of your sentiment, I guess, is up for debate. I think a lot of people might want to, take objection to which regime was better, but hey, that's it. Thank you for sharing your sentiments. Our WhatsApps are still open, 061-410-4107, so you can still send through those WhatsApp voice notes. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back on the other side of this and we'll get into stages, pages, screens and more.
Here he comes. Hello, guys. You're so dramatic. Hey, bro, it's not me. It's the extra styling kit. The leather seats with the red finish. It's the tow bar, all coming standard with my red Isuzu badge. Wow, now that is extra.
Why be standard when you can get the all-new Isuzu D-Max X Rider from just 8,742 Rand. Prime less 3.5%, 0% deposit, 40% balloon, and 72 months to pay. Get yours today. Finance is subject to approval. Isuzu Finance, a product of Westbank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Victory in the opening match always sets a good tone, and that's what the Gunners of London are gunning for.
They've almost scored! Kai Havertz! And Arsenal have won it later.
Meanwhile, the Wolves are on a real mission to howl for 90 minutes in search of essential 3 points.
Wolves have a second! And listen to the noise!
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling encounter between Arsenal FC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, 17 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Get affordable car insurance and do more with the money that you could save every month. 69-year-old Vivian can afford to treat herself more now that she pays an awesome car insurance premium of only 749 Rand per month to insure her grey 2024 Suzuki Jimmy AT5DR. Do you want more? SMS out to 30754 to get a quote. That's out to 30754 now. Remember that Outsurance is a licensed FSP and of course T's and C's do apply.
Stages, pages, screens and more on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga.
All right, shifting focus a little bit and coming away from all that is political. We are talking Fame Week Africa, and we're catching up with the marketing manager of Fame Week, Stephen Beckett, now joining us. It's taking place in Cape Town from the 1st until the 7th of September. So that first week in September, shining a spotlight on women in film, music, fashion, and entertainment. How are you doing, Stephen? You good?
I'm good yourself. Again, hello and welcome to all your listeners as well.
Thank you so much for taking the time. Give us some context and some history as to what is a Fame Week.
Well, so Fame Week really is just a culmination of events that take place obviously in Cape Town, and we've partnered with the city of Cape Town. It really is just it's a space for all creatives, producers, buyers, sellers, everybody that's really in the content creation space.
Yeah, and when we talk content, we're talking, as I mentioned, covering a whole plethora of the creative and artistic disciplines and sectors.
Yeah, correct. So you're talking about producers, buyers, sellers, as I mentioned, content creators. We also have people within the music space, the music producers and directors, obviously the front end as well as the back end of production.
Yeah.
And then obviously something that we're really excited about, and which we've just launched in 2024, which is the African Fashion Forum, and that really just speaks to design and everybody that's in that kind of creative space as well.
And Fame Week, is it something that's been around? Because I think it's the first I'm hearing of it.
So it's actually the fourth installment. We started just after the pandemic. But obviously we're getting bigger and bigger now. We've taken over the CTICC in Cape Town, and obviously looking at reaching more and more people. And look, our continent is rich and full of creatives.
Yeah.
So we've got so much to offer the world.
Yeah, and obviously with this being the fourth installment, now kicking myself that I've not heard of it before, but this being the fourth installment of it means that we can then assess how the previous ones have done, and perhaps some of the tangible imprint and impact that you've seen it have on those who've participated. Share with us some of that information.
Yeah, look, our main focus is to give Africa the voice that it deserves, and we're definitely seeing such great interest from abroad now, and obviously people are now understanding how creative and all the amazing stuff that we have to showcase.
Yeah, and primarily a lot of your participants, if not all, are women, or you amplify women's voices within the space. And why is it so important for you to do that, to amplify and magnify women in these sectors?
Look, this industry is synonymously known for silencing women or for prioritizing men, and that's exactly what the platform that we've created as well. We always want to give women the space and the freedom, and this is ultimately what we've designed. It isn't only for women, but obviously we've made sure that we've partnered up for Women in Entertainment Breakfast, and that really speaks specifically to the challenges and obviously everything that women face within this male-dominated space.
Let's talk a little bit about the itinerary over the week. What's in store for those attending or those with now an interest to go and see, what happens at Fame Week?
Yeah, look, we've partnered with the City of Cape Town, obviously because we have been the whole City of Cape Town, and there's so much to look forward to. We've got a Nollywood. We partnered with Nigeria to have a Nollywood screening on the Sunday, so to open Fame Week Africa, and that'll take place at the Rockefeller in Cape Town. And then our conferencing exhibition starts from the Monday, Tuesday, and the Wednesday, and that is really the pre-scheduled one-to-one matchmaking space, and that obviously speaks to the business side of film, TV, music, fashion. And then we conclude with the Fame Shorts Film Festival, and that is in its second year. It's a really exciting space for me personally. Obviously, with the amount of content that people consume today, this is a new and unique environment and space. It is very creative, very interesting space, and that'll take place at the Lobby Theatre in Cape Town as well.
Lovely. I mean, it sounds like a very full agenda, and definitely if you have a vested interest in the film and music, fashion, and of course entertainment sectors, any kind of creative and artistic content, then Fame Week is definitely for you from the 1st till the 7th of September. By way of a digital platform that people can go and maybe get a more comprehensive schedule, please confirm with us what is the woo.
All right, so for Fame Week Africa, it's fameweekafrica.com. And then for the Short Film Festival, it's fameshortsfilmfestival.com. We are also on social media as well. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the spaces that we need to be. So everybody, if you just search us, you'll find us. And all the information is there, tickets, the content session programs. We do have amazing news that Steve Harvey will be in attendance on the Monday.
Oh, nice.
And obviously, that's a big draw card for people within the entertainment space. With his successful behind the scenes and not just in front of camera career.
Absolutely. Saving, the cherry on the top for the very end of our interview. There we go. Fame Week in Cape Town happening from the 1st until the 7th of September in Cape Town. You can definitely jump onto fameweekafrica.com for more information. And as you heard, not only is it great for you to go and engage, get some knowledge, get some context, perhaps do some trading, but also might have the opportunity to be able to learn from one of the best entertainers, Steve Harvey. Stephen Beckett, thank you so much for your time today. Stephen is the marketing manager at Fame Week. It's just gone 10 to 2 o'clock. It's time for Kids Corner.
Hello friends and welcome to Nali Bali. DIY, do it yourself, encourages children to use many everyday skills to problem solve and think about tasks carefully and analytically, exploring potential outcomes. It exercises the mind, encourages lateral and logical thinking, choosing from a range of solutions. It also taps into children's creativity, enabling them to use their imagination and put their artistic skills into practice. In terms of movement and dexterity, DIY also helps develop children's fine motor skills, as they will often be using smaller, more sensitive movements which require concentration and practice in order to achieve the desired outcome. You can make a kite like Bobo. You might be wondering who's Bobo. Just listen to today's story called The Girl and the Kite, written by Vuyo Kazingemdu. But before we listen to today's story, let's all get up and dance! Bobo was a bright orange kite. He belonged to a little boy who enjoyed playing with him on windy days. The boy would run on the top of the hill holding Bobo and come running down. The wind would blow Bobo up, 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 up across the sky. Whee! I'm flying! Bobo laughed. The boy ran faster and faster. The wind grew even stronger. The boy loosened his grip just a little, and Bobo slipped out of his hand. "Oh no, my kite!" cried the boy. He tried chasing after Bobo, but it was too late. Bobo drifted away across the blue sky. "I'm going on an adventure!" Bobo shouted as he flew above roads and shops and parks. Everywhere he went, people stopped to admire him. A group of children said, Bobo flew over a big tree where some doves were nesting.
Hey, what kind of bird are you?
Asked one of the doves.
I'm not a bird, I'm a kite,
answered Bobo proudly as he flew further. Soon he found himself at the edge of the town. There was a bright tent with stripes in all of the colors of the rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet.
Wow, what a pretty rainbow tent. If only I could come down from the sky, then I could look inside of it,
said Bobo. All of a sudden, the wind stopped blowing, almost as if it had had Bobo. Down, down, down went Bobo and landed on the wet grass. A clown ran over and picked him up. Ho ho ho! What a lovely kite! The clown said, gently drying Bobo with a cloth. All the other circus performers agreed.
Please let me have him. I'm going to use him in my act,
said a young girl in a leotard. The clown wanted to keep Bobo for himself, but he couldn't say no to the girl. After all, she was his daughter. Her name was Amelia. Bobo and Amelia spent weeks rehearsing together. She'd swing him high in the air while doing her graceful moves. Her jumps were the most impressive. She would spin, jump high, release Bobo, and grab his strings just before landing. It looked as if they were flying together. All the children loved Amelia's act. The circus manager did too.
How would you like to go on your first tour, Amelia?
The circus manager said.
Yes, please.
Amelia said, jumping for joy. Bobo bobbed up and down in agreement. Amelia and Bobo traveled all over the world, performing their act. Everywhere they went, people were amazed by the girl and her bright orange kite. One day while they were practicing, Bobo flew too high and got stuck at the top of the tent. Amelia climbed on a tall ladder and tugged to get Bobo down. She heard a horrible sound as Bobo's fabric ripped and he fell to the ground.
Oh no! My kite is ruined!
Cried Amelia.
That's okay. We'll get you a new one,
said the circus manager.
Amelia, you can do your act with any kite,
her father said. But that wasn't true.
You don't understand. Bobo is a very special kite. We are a team. Without Bobo, my act won't be the same,
said Amelia. So she worked hard to patch Bobo up with straps of fabric she found. The straps of fabric were all the colors of the rainbow.
Bobo, you look like a rainbow, just like the circus tent. It will make people very happy to see such a colorful kite.
Amelia smiled, and Bobo smiled too, because he was very happy to fly high once more. A beautiful rainbow kite. And so we come to the end of another Nali Bali story time. Today's story was called The Girl and the Kite, written by Vuyokazi Ngemtu. Did you know that reading and telling stories to children at home can help them do better at school? If you want free stories to read to your children or for your children to enjoy on their own, visit Nali Bali website www.nalibali.org or Mobi site www.nalibali.mobi. You will find stories in 11 South African languages, as well as tips for reading and sharing stories with your children to grow their potential. Also look out for the bilingual Nali Bali Reading for Enjoyment supplements with great children's stories and activities available in newspapers. Nali Bali, it starts with a story.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Top stories, Shivambu explains leaving the EFF and protests escalate in India over gruesome rape of doctor. With the news, I'm Dino Mutaung. Good afternoon. EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu says he will join the Umkhonto weSizwe MK party as an ordinary member with no positions promised. Shivambu says that he will not be renewing his party membership. He has been the EFF's Deputy President since its founding in 2013. Shivambu made the announcement at a press briefing in Johannesburg.
I believe the aspirations and vision contained in the organizational redesign document of the EFF can still be achieved. That the visions that are contained in the organizational redesign document of the EFF can still be achieved, and that I believe so. That my non-renewal of EFF membership is not a vote of no confidence in the organization, but a revolutionary act that will allow progressive forces to unite and work towards the agenda for progressive and revolutionary change.
Meanwhile, the legal counsel for former President Jacob Zuma and the Umkhonto weSizwe MK party has argued that the matter before the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg is about the constitutional obligations of the SABC. Zuma and the MK party are seeking an order to have the SABC's use of the term Government of National Unity declared unconstitutional and invalid. The applicants argue that the current political arrangement does not fit the definition of GNU. Advocate Dalimpo says the SABC is an organ of state and therefore seeks to enforce rights.
It's not about the GNU, it's about the SABC and about the constitutional obligations of a public broadcaster, which is an organ of state. The product that this particular organ of state produces is of no major significance. The rights that we want to enforce qua organ of state are those rights that reside in section 33 of the Constitution. But as far as the so-called declaratory order is concerned, then it's the other rights.
Moving to the Free State, the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court has heard that Morwadi Choluta only found out about being a state witness in the controversial 255 million rand asbestos removal project case through the media. Choluta, the former personal assistant to ex-Free State Premier Ace Magashule, is denying all charges leveled against her. She has been charged with fraud, corruption and money laundering. The 37-year-old is appearing for the third time in court this week for a formal bail application. In other news, the children and grandchildren of veteran actor Connie Chume says she might have been a superstar to many in the country and across the globe, but to them, she's a mother that taught them to love and care for other people. Chume's funeral is underway in Davidton, east of Johannesburg. Chume died in hospital last week following a short illness. The 72-year-old appeared in different dramas such as Gomorrah, Soul City and Zone 14. She also starred in international films such as Black Panther and Black is King. Chume's daughter, Tumi, elaborates.
It was an absolute pleasure to share you with the world because your heart was big enough to accommodate all of us. Your absence is going to be so loud. You taught us to depend on Jesus. You taught us to trust in God. And I do believe that through your teachings, we shall find healing. I'm glad we got to exchange our last I love yous. I love you, Mama, and thank you for everything.
Lastly, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has condemned violence against women after a night of protests across the country over the rape and murder last week of a young doctor in Kolkata. Modi demanded swift punishment for those who committed what he called monstrous acts against women. The BBC's David Bamford has the details.
In remarks apparently aimed at the West Bengal authorities responsible for Kolkata, where the hospital is located, Narendra Modi said state governments need to take crimes against women seriously. He said those involved in such demonic acts must face strict punishment. The protests by thousands of women and medical staff have been fueled by accusations of an attempted cover-up at the hospital where the 31-year-old woman was brutally killed. The investigation has been transferred to the National Police Force after the Calcutta High Court said City Police had made no significant progress in investigation and that there was a suspected tampering of the evidence.
Recapping the top story this hour, EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu says he will join the Umkhonto weSizwe Party as an ordinary member with no positions promised. Shivambu says that he will not be renewing his party membership. Headlines at 2:30 for SFM News. I'm Dino Mutaung.
Oscar and Emmy winner Kevin Costner is John Dutton, a sixth-generation homesteader and devoted father. John controls the largest contiguous ranch in the United States, operating in a corrupt world where politicians are compromised by influential oil and lumber corporations and where land grabs make developers billions. Shifting alliances, unsolved murders, open wounds, and hard-earned respect puts Dutton's property in constant conflict with those it borders, an expanding town, an Indian reservation, and America's first national park. Channel your inner drama with Yellowstone, Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. Hi, my name is Kamogelo and I'm a lifesaver. Through a chance encounter with the DKMS Africa team at a nearby mall, I decided to register to become a stem cell donor and potentially give someone else a second chance at life. Every life is precious, and after I was made aware that I could give someone else a second chance at life, all it took to register was 3 swabs, a quick and easy process. You too could be a potential lifesaver in the making. Register to become a stem cell donor at dkmsafrica.org.
The Rockets know how magical 3 points is in football. They want just that in their own backyard this weekend. But Gunners want to deny them any joy as they are in dire need of victory to escape from the uncomfortable territory. Mpumalanga battles it out with Eastern Cape. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. TS Galaxy Queens FC versus City Lads Ladies FC, the Sunday 18 August at 3 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
Baby, oh, baby, baby, oh, baby.
We need to talk about where we're taking this thing. How far we're gonna let this go. We've been here before. It's getting late.
It's getting late. Why you gotta be here beside me, watching, needing, wanting me? I'm afraid. Don't be. I'm afraid. Don't be. I'm so scared that you'll hurt me twice, baby.
Listen,
baby.
I've already been thinking about you in my mind far too often for you to be here at this time. See, one hand's on 9 and the other's on my thigh. Look, I've already played with the idea of you being here in the morning, the position for the crack of dawn and the conversations before the yawning. But it's getting late.
It's getting late. Why you gotta be here beside me, watching, leading, wanting I'm afraid.
You say,
Don't be. But I'm afraid.
you say,
Don't be. I'm so scared that you hurt me. I'm so
how's about I let you touch the space that you left behind? The day that you stopped smiling, the day that the tears started falling. But now we're talking, touching, almost making sensual again. You can taste the familiar, cause the family are supportive of this moment. But what's meant by your movements is it's getting late.
It's getting late. Why you gotta be here beside me, watching, needing, wanting me? But I'm afraid. Don't be. But I'm afraid. Don't be. I'm so scared that you'll hurt me twice. Oh, baby, baby, baby. Oh, baby, twice, baby, baby, baby. Oh, baby, 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 baby. Oh, baby, 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 baby.
I see the memories replay. Same space, face, bodies. I know there's a method to manliness, but I'm afraid.
It's getting late. Why you gotta be here? Beside me, watching, needing, wanting me. But I'm afraid. Just say don't be. But I'm afraid. And just say don't be. I'm afraid that you're gonna hurt me, baby, baby. Twice, baby. Baby, 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 baby. Twice, baby. Oh, baby, 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 baby. Oh, baby, I know there's a method to your ending days, but I'm afraid I'll see the memories replay. Same space, same face, same bodies, baby. I know there's a method to your ending days, but I'm afraid. It is a track that came out of their debut studio album, Floetic. That is getting late, and it's written by both the ladies. It peaked quite well at the Billboard charts back in 2003 when it came out. And I know that it was also sampled by Drake in recent years.
I just can't remember what song, but it was sampled by Drake in recent years, and I think from his album Honestly Nevermind. That is how we get into the 2 o'clock hour of the show with Flowetry coming through. Getting Late is the name of the track, bringing us to 2:15. In this hour of the show, we are still focusing on women, and because it is August, Women's Month, we are celebrating and honoring South African women. And now we are going to be looking at the progress and perhaps some of the challenges that women within the judiciary might face in 2024. It's weird. These days, my brain is just struggling to sort of articulate the years. I'm having to jump between, saying 2020 something and 2000 and, but it's okay. What's the English word? Oscillating between the two. So we're going to be looking at the progress and challenges that are faced perhaps by women within the judiciary in this hour. And then we're also going to be touching base a little bit later on in the show on a conversation around the unemployment stats that just came out. And of course, we know that those stats jumped to 33.5%. Some analysts were hoping that that number would see some improvement, but it was not to be in this quarter. So right now we are joined by Mbegezeli Benjamin, who is the advocacy manager at Judges Matter. As we have and navigate our way through this conversation, we're going to find out the status of South African women within the judiciary. If we snap back to 1994 versus now 2024, there is quite the stark difference in as far as representation is concerned. Back then, there was only 2 out of the 156 justices were women. Out of the 156 judges at the time were women. In 2024, 46%. That's over 110 of the judges currently are females. Good afternoon to you, Mbegezeli. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm feeling very well. It's a pleasure to be on your show. It's my first time, so I'm really excited.
Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. Let's talk about, it's Women's Month and we're reflecting on the judiciary and matters of inclusivity and representation. We say that if we had to rewind back to 1994, there was only 2 women at the time out of the 156 judges. Fast forward to 2024, there's now over 110 female judges sitting on the bench out of the 246. But is this a healthy gauge of the inclusion and diversity that's within the judiciary?
Well, I think it's a healthy gauge. It is a useful gauge, but it certainly is not the only gauge to look at progress for women, particularly in the judiciary. I think it's important to highlight the numbers because they tell us one part of the picture, one part of the story, but we do need to interrogate some of those numbers. And the reason why we start with the numbers is because they just simplify some of the issues. When we look at 1994, there were only 2 women who were judges at the time. Both women were white women. There was not a single black woman who was a judge in 1994. It only was later on, towards the end of 1994, that Justice Yvonne Mokgoro was appointed as the first black woman judge in our judiciary. So that was in 1994. But fast forward 30 years later, almost half of our judiciary is made up of women. That is about 46% of all judges, so it's 113 are women. So that tells you that over the last 30 years, there's been a huge amount of effort and a huge amount of progress that women have made in our judiciary. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll even have our first Chief Justice who will be a woman. So that is something that we should mark as a milestone, but of course there is still more to be done.
And you talk, Mbegezeli, around that, numbers are great for us to have context, but it's not the only marker of what progress is and what progress should look like within the judiciary. So what other markers should we be looking out for as a way of charting that, yes, indeed, there is tangible, sustainable progress within the judiciary?
Yeah, so some of the markers of progress that we must look at is to what extent is our judiciary accommodating of women? So we might only look at the numbers and say, look, we've made a lot of progress. But if the experiences of the women in the judiciary is not conducive for them to stay and thrive, then that is a problem. What we do know, for example, is that the judiciary still is in many ways a boys' world, in the sense that the kind of responsibilities that society places on women, the judiciary doesn't entirely accommodate them. For example, family commitments. We know that society places a lot of family commitments on women as primary caregivers, especially for children. And so those kinds of family responsibilities don't entirely align with the judiciary and how it functions. For example, judges are required to go on circuit court. And circuit court means that you move out of the base of where you usually sit and you go to more rural areas. For example, judges in Pietermaritzburg sometimes go on circuit in different parts of KZN, including Olundi, including in Richards Bay, and all kinds of areas, and some of them very rural, so that they can deal with cases there. But if you're a judge who is a young mother or a mother of young children, it is very, very difficult for you to go on circuit, because that means you are away from home for 6 weeks. And that means your children will not be taken care of properly. And so because of your responsibilities as a mother, it is very difficult to hold them alongside your responsibility as a judge. So that's just one practical example. We also know that the judiciary, we are not actually sure whether the judiciary even has a maternity leave policy. So if you as a judge fall pregnant, we don't quite know what happens to you. And that is something maybe we need to get clarity from. But that is just one tangible example of, even though we do have 46% of our judiciary as women, but the kind of experiences that women do have in the judiciary might not necessarily keep up with those changes.
And what are the challenges in addressing some of these challenges that are presented or that are nuanced to the feminine experience of being a judge? Because, for instance, if you talk about it's unclear about the maternity policy for judges, I kind of raised an eyebrow there, and I thought to myself, well, shouldn't it be clear in the judiciary? It should be crystallized within the judiciary.
It definitely should be, and this is where we are saying it's really, really important to have women not just as judges, but also to serve in the leadership positions and the decision-making positions of the judiciary, because those decisions and the leadership positions are the ones that develop things like the maternity leave policy or all other policies that relate to the experiences of women and all judges in our courts. There is a forum, for example, called the Heads of Court Forum. And in that forum, it sits all the heads of the superior courts in the country. So all the Chief Justice, the head of the Supreme Court of Appeal, all the different judges present across the 9 provinces, they all sit in that forum. Currently, that forum is made up of 15 positions. And women only hold 5 positions. And in fact, on the 1st of September, Chief Justice Maya will be the 5th woman to sit in 15-member body. So we already see that there isn't a sufficient representation of women. And the importance of that body is that it develops policies for the judiciary, including on things like the maternity leave policy that might be proposed, including on an anti-sexual harassment policy that will be proposed. We know that the majority of victims of sexual harassment are women. And so when you want a policy that is developed, you want it to take the full experiences of women into account, and which is why, as Judges Matter, we are advocating for the Heads of Court Forum, which is a decision-making body, to have a full representation of the full diversity of our judiciary. It is not enough to only have 5 out of 15 positions being filled by women, because of we know that those decisions that come out of that body are likely to have blind spots because they don't have the full diversity of our judiciary.
As we have this conversation, if you'd like to weigh in, you are more than welcome to do so on 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, or 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. We're talking, of course, and looking at the progress and perhaps some of the challenges that are faced by South African women within the judiciary, and a lot of the experiences being nuanced within this particular sector that I think a lot of us don't quite understand the lived and professional experience in it, because quite frankly we are not in it and we just have an outsider's glimpse, and when you talk around the anti-sexual harassment policies, for instance, and representation in bodies like the Heads of Courts Forum, there's been a lot of conversations that we've been seeing recurring on our news outlets around that, where younger women in the judiciary are actually calling to question perhaps some of these policies specific to sexual harassment issues within the sector, and sharing the sentiments that you bring up to say more representation, but also more protection and more safeguards for younger women in the sector. What's the conversation around that?
The conversation is really on that, Bridget, and you've summarized some of it. There is now a strong push towards more safeguarding, more protection, and more enforcement of the rules. Because what has happened for a long time, the legal profession and the judiciary by extension has been extremely male-dominated. Even now, the numbers of men versus women are really disproportionate. There's fewer women than men. And for a long time, some of the things that harm women more have not been taken as seriously as one would have expected. There is no policy, for example, for dealing specifically with sexual harassment, with a sexist abuse, with sexism within the legal profession and the judiciary by extension. And so the call now is for there to be a policy that is put in place. The Chief Justice has made an undertaking that he will try to have a policy in place by the time that he leaves office at the end of this month. But that policy needs also to be enforced, because it's not enough to just have policy written on paper, but it needs to be enforced. Because what studies by the International Bar Association, by different organizations like the Center for Applied Legal Studies at Wits University, what those studies show is that women are the largest victims of sexual harassment, and women in the legal profession and in the judiciary. Those are the biggest victims of sexual harassment. Some of them have even left the legal profession because of those experiences of sexual harassment. But what we also know is that we have very, very few cases where the authorities, the bodies that are set up, the Judicial Service Commission and other bodies, there are very few cases where they have, in fact, enforced the rules against sexual harassment. They have taken on cases where perpetrators are judges or lawyers. And so we have a crisis in the profession, but it's not really being dealt with. And so the call is for there to be much stronger enforcement. The first call is for there to be a policy that is put in place, but secondly, that policy should be enforced even against the most powerful within the judiciary and the legal profession.
Yeah, I definitely want to come back and continue our conversation, Mbegazeli, but just looking at the time, I know that we're going to get into the headline news in just a matter of moments, but our lines are open if you want to weigh in with your thoughts and perhaps your observations on this conversation. 086 000 2032 is our live studio line, or 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. That line is also still open if you want to share your sentiments on our earlier conversation. That in the first hour, we're asking you, and we made a call out to the fighters who listen to the station and listen to the show to ask how they are feeling in this moment, how they are feeling in this departure of the Deputy President Floyd Shivambu. And so if you want to share your thinking around it, a lot of the earlier voice notes that we played, people were still very much in shock of the developments that had just happened. We almost got a sense of people, kind of the underlying question being, what happens now? So we'd still very much love to hear your sentiments around that. 0614104107. Let's take a quick pause here for the headline news, and then we'll come back and continue this conversation.
With the headlines at 2:30, I am Dino Mataung. Good afternoon. Former EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu has not divulged his reasons for resigning from the party to join newly formed Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. In other news, the legal representative of Moradi Choloda has told the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court that she was charged because she didn't implicate her former boss Ace Magashule in the manner the NPA had wanted her to. And at least 2 former employees of the Namakwa municipality in the Northern Cape are expected to appear in the Springbok Magistrates Court next month for fraud. The full update follows at the top of the hour.
Catch me, Bonang Mateba, on a fresh reality series that showcases the business behind being a business. Get to experience an intimate look at my life with family, personal growth, and my mission to uplift young women. Jet with me as we prepare to crown a lucky chaser. Be grounded, be entertained, and be dazzled. Monday, 6 p.m. on S3 is a date with you and B. Catch Bedazzled by Bonang on S3 every Monday at 6 p.m.
We can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
Big ups to all the women of Africa Dzonga. Incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat. On and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport speaks volumes. You are the great inspiration to the nation. Happy Women's Month, courtesy of SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
As we continue our conversation with Mbegazeli Benjamin, who is the advocacy manager at Judges Matter, looking at the progress and perhaps the challenges that are faced by women within the legal fraternity and by extension, of course, the judiciary. And let's explore perhaps what can be looked into by way of challenges, by way of the challenges that are facing women in the judiciary, and how those can be addressed, whether by way of policy, whether by way of strategies that speak to the specific experience of women.
There are a number of solutions, Bridget. One of them is really we need to strengthen the pipeline of women coming into the judiciary. For you to become a judge, you need to be a lawyer in practice who is at the top of their game. And so you need to be dealing with cases that are large, that are complex, that deal with really difficult questions of law, because those prepare you to be a judge in the High Court and in other courts. One of the big problems that we have is women lawyers, women advocates and attorneys are not getting enough of the kind of complex work that would prepare them and improve their skills in terms of getting them ready to be judges. Mm-hmm. And the real reason for that we can point to is simply sexism. It's not because women advocates are inadequate. It's not that they are not qualified. In fact, most of the graduates who come out of our law schools are women. Mm. Most of the people who are graduating with post-grad qualifications in complex areas like tax law, like competition law, like maritime law, the majority of those graduates are women graduates. So it's not a question of qualifications. It's simply a question of opportunity. And what should ideally happen is all the big banks all the big corporates on the JSE, each one of them, should be looking at their legal budget and looking at how much of that legal budget is going to women advocates, is going to women attorneys, particularly black women attorneys, because it's in their interest, in fact, for corporations to have a strong judiciary. And the way that you get a strong judiciary is to give women the kind of work that will prepare them to be judges. And so that is one simple solution that can be done. All the legal managers at all the top 40 companies, if they decided today to give at least 40% of their legal budget to women who are qualified, then that would solve part of the problem. The other solution, of course, is for there to be policies in place. There should be policies in place like the one dealing with sexual harassment, because it is a problem. We are seeing women leaving the legal profession because of issues of sexual harassment. If we look at the numbers, in September of 2022, there were 2,743 women advocates who were practicing. This year, in April of 2024, that number has reduced by more than 300. They could very well be leaving because of issues of the economy, or they didn't recover fully from COVID. But certainly we do know that one of the causes of women leaving the legal profession is sexual harassment and sexism and bullying in the legal profession. That needs to be stamped out, a policy needs to be put in place, and that policy needs to be enforced so that we see women staying and thriving in the legal profession, and hopefully they'll one day be judges, and good judges who will work for all people in South Africa.
So then I wonder, Mbegezeli, with everything that you've just said, the appointment of Justice Mandisa Maya, I presume then that goes a long way towards, I guess, igniting that sense of this is achievable for young women within the legal sector, but also knowing that they now have an ally in the very upper echelons of the structure.
Absolutely. Justice Maya's appointment is really important symbolically. What it tells about the story of how a young woman from a rural area can go all the way to the highest echelons of the judiciary is a powerful story that I hope will inspire many more women and many more girls in our country to aspire to that position. But there's also the question of Justice Maya is a really, really good judge who has experience as a judge for more than 20 years. She has been a leader in various capacities in the judiciary. And in fact, I would dare say that she's the most prepared Chief Justice that we've had since 1994. And so that also is a story that I think shouldn't be lost. Women should aspire to perform at the highest level, and we should give them that opportunity, that space for them to hold significant positions in all of society, so that we can benefit from a more diverse experiences. We can have the benefit of people who have all the experience and all the qualities that will ultimately benefit our institutions. I think that is the most important thing. And yes, Justice Maya, like I said, has been quite active in the judiciary. She was a leader in the International Association of Women Judges, and so she has worked to develop some of these policies that I'm speaking about, the anti-sexual harassment policy. That is something that she has led as Deputy Chief Justice, and ultimately we are waiting within the next couple of weeks that policy will be passed. That is part of the work that she has done, and it serves again as an ally to women judges who are in the judiciary, but also other women lawyers who aspire to come into the judiciary.
Yeah, and as we talk of Justice Maya, for instance, it was at the memorial of Justice Yvonne Mokgoro, and those of us who watched live, and she was talking about just the sisterhood of that generation of judges coming up together as younger judges, traveling internationally, for postgraduate schooling and having that support system throughout the years in understanding just how unique and nuanced it is to be in the legal fraternity as a female who must still then occupy specific roles and still evolves into other identities of one's life. And I think those conversations also, touching back to your point around understanding how to support women judges so that they can thrive and succeed, those conversations being held at the highest possible offices and doors, I think goes a long way to also opening the conversation to younger women in the legal fraternity to say there are people who understand the journey, the challenges, its demands, and the sacrifices that you make, and lean into that so that you can get the necessary support, even if it's somebody just tapping you on your shoulder saying, we understand the pressure, but tomorrow will be a better day.
Yes, absolutely. And that is exactly what that ethos that you just articulated now is exactly what Justice Mohoro, when she was an older sister to Justice Maya and others, all the way when they were in the United States, she held them together. She was supportive of them and their studies, and even when they came back, she was supportive of their career. And it's something that we can all draw inspiration and use as an example, because the fight for gender equality is not just a fight for women. Of course, women who bear the brunt of some of these challenges we spoke about, they are the primary people who can lead us in the struggle, but it certainly isn't for women only. We need men who are legal managers in the corporations to be conscious of the power that they have and give women the opportunities for them to be given the kind of complex legal work that will benefit them. Men also need to be the champions of whatever policies are in place to fight against sexual harassment and abuse, and who will fight against workplace bullying of women. It's not just a fight for women. Men also need to be allies in this fight, and they also need to stand up to other men. Unfortunately, who they need to be standing up to other men who are abusive and who are a stumbling block towards women progress in the legal profession and in the judiciary, but in all of society.
Yeah. Mbegazeli Benjamin, thank you so much for the time today. Much appreciate you sharing your insights and your thoughts around this. That was Mbegazeli Benjamin, who's the advocacy manager at Judges Matter. It's just gone 3 o'clock. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back. We'll jump into some of your voice notes and then we'll have a conversation around our unemployment rates.
Victory in the opening match always sets a good tone, and that's what the Gunners of London are gunning for.
They've almost scored! Kai Havertz! And Arsenal have won it later.
Meanwhile, the Wolves are on a real mission to howl for 90 minutes in search of essential 3 points.
Wolves have a second! And listen to the noise!
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling encounter between Arsenal FC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, 17 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC+. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game! Feel good breakfast show.
Feel Good Fridays just got even better with a brand new Espresso newsletter, The Feel Good Fix. Delivered to your inbox every Friday, it is your weekly dose of joy, entertainment, and local flair. Subscribe now at expressoshow.com and never miss a moment.
From heartwarming stories to tasty recipes, it's all there waiting for you. And remember to tune in to the Espresso Morning Show weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on S3, and let's start your day right and channel your inner feel good.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Good afternoon, Bridget. It's Pooh here from Potchefstroom. Bridget, hey, this is a very painful one. We didn't expect this as followers. I think Floyd is just a lamb to catch the tiger which is Julius Malema. And I think Mr. Zuma is having a hand in it. I don't know, but it's painful.
Good evening, Bridget. I am very hurt and shocked. You know, I don't know how to explain it. EFF is my life. Socialism is my life. Yes, I really love MK as well because MK pushes the agenda of the black people as well and the marginalized people party. I never expected this. I am very hurt. My wife is crying, my sister is crying. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Oh, he actually sounds hurt. He really does sound hurt. Apologies, they fighters. I mean, hey, we don't know what to say to you guys, but I'm sure you all shall overcome. So we thought we'd just open up the lines for you all to share your emotions. And of course, making way for Ashraf Gada and his team, who are probably going to explore this conversation and the impact that it's going to have for your party, as well as the impact that it has for the future of both parties, MK as well as EFF, notwithstanding what this will mean in 2 years' time as we go into the local elections. A lot of people already saying that could this be the beginning of the end? I don't know. I don't have the magic ball to look into the future, but we thought that at the very least that we could do is open the lines for you to be in community and share with us what you are thinking around this and how you are feeling around this. Right now, though, we are focusing on yet another headline that's been circulating for the last few days. The unemployment rate in South Africa jumped to 33.5%. 8.4 million South Africans are now jobless and unemployed. There was, some polls that were circulating around economists that expected that perhaps the unemployment rate would improve to below 32%. However, it was not to be. It's now at 33.5%, making it the highest rate since 2022. And we invited Graham Wilkinson. My apologies, Graham. There are days when the tongue just doesn't want to land where it's supposed to when one is in conversation. Graham Wilkinson joins us now, who's the Senior Social Investment Specialist at Chikulu Social Investments. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good, thank you, Bridget. No, it's great to be with you, and don't worry, there's too many syllables in that surname of mine.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be in conversation with us. I mean, it's alarming, right? Because the trend is certainly not going in the direction that many South Africans would hope. We're not really seeing a turnaround in these numbers. And much of the conversation over recent years has been around what are the factors that are contributing to unemployment in the country. But I think we have a grasp perhaps as to what that is. And maybe now the question should be, maybe let's take a hard look at what we should be doing. What factors would then see us turn the tide around on this?
Yeah, look, it's such an intractable challenge, and that statistic just doesn't want to budge. If it does budge, it's just a little bit this way and a little bit that way. It seems it's a bit like a flu that just never wants to, never wants to leave your body. It's just a really intractable challenge. So obviously, as South Africans, we need to be going about facing this challenge differently. So it is about doing something differently. Something has to change for our unemployment rate to change. And some of those things are big macroeconomic stuff, national regulation, some would argue, and I might be one of those that would say that, there are some, laws, regulations, etc., which make it so difficult for small businesses to get up and running. And one could worry about those, but as a person, or as the work that we do, we work with social investors, so trusts and foundations that want to see social change and to see things happening in society for the common good, for the betterment of society. There's stuff that even the small trust or small foundation, a family foundation or a community trust, could be doing differently, and we would argue that it's really about mindset, firstly, and secondly, starting where you are with what you've got. And there's a lot that can be done, and perhaps if more people were doing a little bit by a little bit, every drop, put all the drops together, you can make an ocean.
Absolutely.
To help us tackle this challenge. I mean, hopefully entire regulations will sort themselves out and make things easier as well. But there is so much to be done to recognize that as a South Africa, 60 million people, it's a sleeping giant. South Africa really has so much potential. How do we wake this sleeping giant up, so that we create opportunities for those 33% of us who don't have opportunity to participate in the economy at the moment.
Let's look at what that might look like, Graham. How can social investments be strategically directed to tackling at least a portion of this problem that we face?
There are many social investors that will support skills. I think education is one of the first things that a grant baker will be saying, we've got to support education. Absolutely. But perhaps the focus now should be on helping people who are looking to close the skills gap that they have, helping to close it with skills that are relevant to the market right now. And it sounds simple to say, but it's quite a challenge in two fronts. Firstly, as an individual that's signing up for a course in something, I might be in my own mind thinking, I would like to become a rocket scientist, even though I don't actually have maths in the trick. But there might actually not be any posts in South Africa at the moment for rocket scientists at all. So it's a tough one. But there might be other jobs that you'd be really good at that the economy actually needs. So how do we help find that match between people's abilities and passions with what we actually need as a country? And there are interesting jobs that don't take much in terms of investment to help people skill up to be able to do. I know, one of the ones that I know that nationally there's that list of scarce skills, and often you'll see hairdresser appear on that list, and people will be, but why is hairdresser there? You're expecting to see engineers and that kind of thing, but hairdresser. Well, because so many of the salons in South Africa are run and popular, being I was going to say manned, but sometimes it's women, by foreign nationals. That there is that skill being offered, but how many South Africans are actually running a salon? And similarly, one could say the same thing for example, of just looking at building the township economy, as some would argue we need to be doing more of. Cell phone repairs. I mean, you've got a annuity market. It's you kind of, it's the way people live now. You will always have customers if you're a cell phone repair person in the right community, because everyone's got a cell phone, almost everyone, and these things do need attention from time to time. So if you can get into that kind of market, you can be, you get access to a return customer, and also, so helping to find that match between people's passions and what the market around them is actually needing. We're finding that thinking about it in that way, making your grants and your support to organizations that do this kind of work, asking them, okay, you want to do training, but then what? Some of our clients actually got to a point where they were saying, no, we don't want to do training anymore because we just train people to get certificates and then they go home and watch Days of Our Lives, or more likely play on TikTok. So how do we training for, to what end?
And how do we then go about, Mark, sort of, as you say, bridging that gap where you've got the skills development on one end, you've got organizations and entities that want to upskill and train young people, but then helping them navigate finding that gap. What does that speak to? Why are more of them not then going out after they've got the skills, then going out to source the opportunity or create the opportunity? What are they saying about that missing link?
Yes, I think there are two things happening there. On the one end, from the donor's perspective, some donors are being a bit, I would argue, and this is me speaking, being a bit too restrictive and are coming and saying we only want to support this kind of skills training course. And so the skills training courses that are offered, are just responding to what the donor wants. But that might not be what the market needs, and it might also not be what the youth who you're targeting are interested in.
Yeah.
So allowing, from a donor perspective, to be a little bit more amenable to understanding what the suppliers that are doing the training and the people with passion who do training, what are they able to do, what are the community that they want to target, your target community, what is they needing to do, but what is the market in that area? So those are questions that you should have answers to before you sign over any checks or donate any money. But secondly, there is a lot of work, I think, that does need to be done to help build people's confidence. So as a trainee who's learning, let's just pick on the cell phone repair, for example. Okay, it's great you've figured out that this is how you repair cell phones, and you might actually have some fun being able to realize, I can do this. But what about then becoming your own boss? It's really scary. And putting yourself out there and putting up with rejection and maybe sitting in your cell phone repair shop for a day and not having any customers. There's a lot that you need to face psychologically around being prepared to be your own boss, as opposed to waiting for someone to come and employ you, and then they have to worry about where the money comes from. As long as they just give you your monthly salary, then you're happy. Being your own boss comes with challenges, and I think there's a lot of work that perhaps needs to be done in communities to help build people's self-confidence to tackle those things. But also when supporting enterprise, even if it's a small hustle or a small business like a cell phone repair shop, we've found that there needs to be at least 4 things need to be in place. Are you providing that in that enterprise, even if it's just a one-person show, a one-woman shop? Do they have access to inputs? The kind of cell phone parts, are they able to get the parts for a good price? Or are they paying an arm and a leg and then having to pass it on to the customers, and the customers say, I'm not going to, too expensive. So inputs are crucial. Expertise, yes, cell phone repair expertise, but also expertise around cash flow management and how to manage your small enterprise and make sure you're complying with tax and you don't get administrative fines from SARS for silly things and that kind of stuff. Expertise is crucial. And access to markets. How do you engage with the market around you to make sure that you're getting as big a slice of the cell phone repair market as it might be in your township or in your suburb where you live? There are things that you could be doing to maximize your access to that market, and how are you being helped with that? And then lastly, access to credit. And how it might not just be credit as in cash, but it could also be, can you negotiate lease rental for your shop for the first few months at a discount to get you access to get your shop up and running and going. These 4 things: access to inputs, expertise, market, and capital. If those 4 things aren't in place, then your enterprise is really, really struggling, and whoever's supporting you is kind of leaving you. Is not giving you the full support that you need as a small enterprise to really get up and going, and to. So many enterprises fail within the first year, never mind in the first 2 years in South Africa. It's one of the shocking things that we face. If these 4 things are in place, you stand such a much better chance of seeing your enterprise last for that first 1 to 2 years.
Graham, We've fast run out of time. My apologies, because I think there was still so much more for us to really just explore with this conversation. Because as you're speaking, for instance, about those inputs, just looking at supporting young folks beyond just social investment or what that actually looks like, it speaks to a 180 approach or a 360 approach in understanding their various needs from various perspectives and dynamics. But we'll pause it there for today, and no doubt this is a recurring theme that we'll pick up on again at some point in time, and maybe we'll double back and explore this just a little bit further. For today, though, we have to wrap the show and leave it right here. That was Graham Wilkinson, who's the Senior Social Investment Specialist at Chikulu Social Investments. It's time for us to make way for Ashraf Gada and his team. I'm sure they've got so much on the agenda today, and you obviously cannot wait to ventilate with them over the next 3 hours. From myself and my team, we thank you for choosing to be in conversation. You could have been anywhere. You chose to be here with us between 1 and 3, and we don't take it for granted. Inshallah, God willing, we'll get to do it again tomorrow.
Top stories: Shivambu Lords, EFF and MK Party common values, and Gaza death toll surpasses 40,000. With the news, I'm Dino Motaung. Good afternoon. Former EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu has not divulged his reasons for resigning from the party to join newly formed Umkhonto weSizwe MK Party. But Shivambu says that the EFF and the MK Party both share common values. He says he will actively serve in the MK Party and shape its direction and politics. Shivambu was speaking at a press briefing in Johannesburg.
I know jointly defines the EFF and Umkhonto weSizwe Party. It's anti-capitalism, it's anti-racism, it's anti-sexism, it's anti-colonialism. And those, an anti-imperialist character as well, the rule of law. And those are the values which I know I can say this because these are values that commonly characterize the political parties.
Moving to the Free State, the legal representative of Moradi Choluta has told the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court that she was charged because she didn't implicate her former boss Ace Magashule in the manner the NPA had wanted her to. Choluta is among the accused in the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal scandal involving Magashule and others dating back to 2014. She's the former personal assistant of Magashule while he was Free State Premier. The 37-year-old is appearing for the third time in court this week for a formal bail application. Choluta, in her heads of argument, claims the state has been distorting facts in its argument that she's a flight risk and should not get bail. We move to the Northern Cape now, where at least 2 former employees of the Namakwa municipality are expected to appear in the Springbok Magistrates Court next month for fraud. The duo is facing allegations of contravening the Municipal Finance Management Act. A former municipal manager is accused of approving expenses which were not budgeted for in 2014. Northern Cape Hawk spokesperson Tebogo Thebe elaborates.
A 66-year-old former municipal manager and a 55-year-old former chief financial officer of Namakwa municipality were warned by the Hawks in Northern Cape to appear before Springbok Magistrate Court on 25 September 2024 on allegations of contravention of Municipal Finance Management Act and defeating or obstructing the administration of justice.
In other news, the South African National Roads Agency, SANRAL, says maintenance work is currently underway on the N2 between Knysna and Platenburg Bay in the Western Cape. SANRAL says construction on the final